Hello everybody, welcome back to Disaster Chess, and this week we're almost up to 650 ranking here. So let's go for a brand new game, 10-minute rapid. And the big thing for me this week has been studying attacks, and I've learned a lot of different attack ideas that I can use to, convert winning situations. Now this straight away, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't quite know how to deal with it. Two attackers on this pawn is obviously more than we can handle. So I think we're gonna go with this. It's a little bit passive and it kind of forces us to open up a long diagonal here with the bishop, but we'll make the best of it. This is actually one of the openings I might consider doing. It's this sort of Scandinavian defense where you push the opposite pawn and you force an exchange. Now here, he's tempting me to get this, but of course there's queen takes, so we're not gonna do that. And then over here, this pawn is protected, so we're okay with that. I think I wanna open up this diagonal as soon as possible. We also might consider something like the pawn push there. Okay, he's forcing my hand. There is something to be said about putting the knight here. He could take, but then we take back and we have a pawn being pushed, but the pawn isn't well supported, so I actually prefer a move like this. If he goes here, his pawn structure is looking worse and worse, and we can always take the knight back to a square like this. So that's my thinking there. But I want to learn some new, maybe one new opening, something that throws a wrench into my enemy's plans. So we're gonna go here. Something maybe like the Alpine defense or even the King's Indian, which is very, very popular these days. It's what they call an ultra-modern opening. And it's called that because it's fairly recent in chess terms, I guess. The idea of giving up the center, is pretty, I guess, rare. Or weird at first glance. So the King's Indian, of course, is the idea that you give up the center entirely, but you're preparing pieces to attack from afar. So you're attacking with pieces instead of with pawns. It's very interesting. Well, I would love to place my knight here, but again, the queen, right? The queen is threatening it. So let's, as much, I actually do hate that move. I do hate going back that far, but we're gonna have to deal with it. And maybe maneuver the knight into a square like this. It's not too bad. You gotta admit, his moves are forcing me to do some stuff I don't want to do. He is also 650 rating, and his name is Pulp from France. So props to him there. But I think that, my opening is very classic, and people basically know how to deal with it, right? And because of that, we probably want to throw some more variety in there. Let's do an early castle. I think that's fine. His king, very exposed, right? Maybe we can capitalize on it with a check here and doubling up on the diagonal for maximum benefit. If we force his king to move, we remove his castling rights. More than likely, he's just going to block with a piece like that. That's fine. We're gonna double up on the file here for attack. Maneuver the knight out of the way, and then consider placing your bishop somewhere that's a bit more aggressive. Something like this is not terrible. But I think that's, natural development when you get to this level where people basically expect and know how to deal with those classic openings. You kind of need something a little bit different to put, get them out of their comfort zone. And that's what we're going to try to do probably next week. I'm going to be aiming to have that ready. So look forward to that. Yes. Now this is guarded. So the queen is looking at a wall, right? Can't take there. The knight here is pretty sad. He can come out in a few ways, but it's not amazing. And then here we may consider this at some point in the future, not right now, but this is not a terrible spot. We could also have forced his hand by putting the knight here. Obviously, he can't take with the queen, but he could have just pushed the pawn, right? And it's a fairly natural position for him to do so, and then I have to spend another move with the knight, and I'm not super happy about that. So, is he threatening anything with this? Well, yes, right? It's unlikely he would actually take, but what happens if we take? If we take, he takes back with the knight, and he does open up the file there, but there's not a ton we can do with it right now. So I don't think we're going to be taking that offer, so to speak. Instead, we have to remember that our pieces need to be developed, right? Our pieces need to come out. He has the same problem, of course, being underdeveloped, but we have to keep getting our pieces out there, specifically our knight, and thinking of nice squares for our knight will be a big play for us. Now, again, what would Sensei Danya say? This move has introduced a big weakness, and it's this square. Now, right now we can't go there with the knight because it's guarded by the bishop, but if the bishop moves, this is potentially a really good outpost for our knight, right? So I'm already thinking that will be potentially a good place to park our knight. Okay, what's our next move though? It doesn't actually change much of my strategy. I think I want to start moving my knight in this way and potentially look to push with these pawns with the backing of the bishop, of the rook, right? That sounds like a reasonable plan. Our king is tucked away nicely. Is there something to be said about just taking his knight away? I don't think so, because the knight is in a pretty bad spot for him, so no pressing hurry for us to move it. I am going to prepare this move. So obviously he can take right now, and I'm preparing the move c4, which kind of explodes this barricade that he's got. And you know, one way or another, it kind of opens up the center for us a little bit. Now that we have our pieces fairly active, we got to crack open that center, right? We got to crack open the center, take advantage that his pieces are underdeveloped compared to ours. His bishop is buried. His rook is buried and doesn't have really a great way to be lifted anywhere. Whereas our rook can actually come to a more active square, like this or like this, depending on how things transpire. So now, well, this is tempting, but of course there is the take back. So we don't yet love it. We're not gonna pounce on it just yet. Let's make this move, see if we can break the center up a little bit. Imagine he takes. And we also want to prepare with rook to b1, I think, to protect that row. I mean, do we care if we just take here, right? If we just take here, this square is doubly guarded. He can't really do anything going to b1 at the moment. Okay, remember what I said? If he moves his bishop away, there are a couple things. He's no longer guarding this move, although he is guarding it with the knight. But there's another thing now that's hanging, and there's this, right? It was a nice little pin there. But it's not really, I guess, it is technically a pin, in the sense that if he moves his knight, we can take. But more than anything, I actually want to take this knight. Because when takes back, we can now go here and we have the threat on the rook, right? Okay, so in prep, he moves. Now, one cool thing is that this has opened, and what's interesting is that we're guarding this bishop here, and I now want to bring more pieces to the party. I'm thinking of things along the line of queen to a6, or, you know, potentially bring this rook. Well, we have to lift it first and then kind of bring it in via there. could be pretty solid. We also have pressure on this pawn now with our bishop. And our king is fairly safe. I'm looking at avenues for attack, and his knight in h6 doesn't have anywhere to go. Okay, so it's true that that pawn was hanging, and my thinking was that it wasn't something that I care about enough to do something about. But maybe I was, maybe I should have kind of protected that in some way. This is protected, and this is protected, this is protected. So the queen isn't threatening anything right now, aside from taking the bishop. But then, of course, we take. So, what is a good play for us here? There's this, and then he takes back. So can we do something to help with that situation? Can we do something to help with that situation? Well, I'm thinking of this move right now. Right? It's protected, and it liberates this diagonal. If we want to take it, I'm not saying I will necessarily. Let's see how things go. But it's not a terrible diagonal to open for us. We kind of have to see what he does and react, I think. That's our best bet. This pawn is pretty hard to dislodge, so I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. So he finds a way to activate his bishop, supporting the queen, which is not a bad move. But we also have some decent options. Let's think here. Let's think here. I think that I want to start including my rook. What would be the best way for us to do that? Well, one thing that immediately comes to mind is this. So yes, we open a line of attack on the rook, but it's being guarded by the knight, and at the same time we're attacking the queen. So what I want to do is kind of dislodge this queen that's very centralized. Right, this queen is kind of is cock blocking all my efforts in some ways. So if we can remove this queen or move it to a different square, it might shake things up enough that we can find a crack in the mechanism. Let's see what he does. Okay, so he just jiggles around a little bit, and nothing really changes. The only problem is that now this rook is also under attack, but again guarded. Right? So we don't worry about it immediately. However, we have to find something has got to give. We have to find something to attack. This bishop, for example, for a very long time has been kind of inactive. So I think that in some ways I wouldn't mind going there. I wouldn't mind going there. Let's think. Here it doesn't work, right? We don't have amazing moves right now. What if we go here? He would take. We would be able to take back. Open a little bit of space, but that almost benefits him more than me. So I'm gonna make this move. And my thinking is I'm threatening this file. Right? So whenever things break down here, something has got to give. And my thinking is that this is going to free up at some point. So I didn't think he would do that because of course we can take back, but by doing that we also give his queen a lot of freedom to just take our rook. Let me be honest, I did not think he would take back. But now I see it's being guarded. We still probably have to take back, I would think. I would think we still have to take back. Because the queen can't go there. Yeah, this is getting very tricky now. So we're gonna take it. But it is very dicey. It's still balanced in material. But we lost both our rooks. We still have our queen, which is very strong, of course. But we now have to be very careful about how we do things. So let's think about this one. If we go here, that's hanging. So this square we can't go to. Have to be very careful. And we have about 1 minute left. So let's do a check and force his king to move. And I'm thinking of just pushing this pawn. Okay. I mean, that's a reasonable move. But now he's dislodged his knight, right? Which is what we said we kind of wanted to accomplish. Let's go here. Oh, okay, I did not mean to do that. Well, now that's probably just losing. That mistake. Okay. Well. Now we can do this safely. It's cost us a lot. We're gonna analyze the game after because I think there's some learning. Okay, there is some learning we can take into account. Okay, so his checkmate is of course coming from the fact that he removes the one escape from us, and there we go. And that's the checkmate. So let's analyze the game real quick. Kudos to my opponent. He actually played quite well. And nothing taken away from him at all. I just want to analyze some moves. And it does break our winning streak, sadly. But let's take a look at it, right? So the opening is this kind of Scandinavian. I think this is called Scandinavian. When they push the opposing pawn. But maybe there's a more sophisticated name to it. Regardless, my thinking is I want to protect that central pawn, right? So he takes, we take. And then this is suspect. I think he just wants me to lure, or wants to lure me into this move, but we just we didn't fall for that, right? Okay, so very quickly, let's kind of analyze through. He doesn't like my move here. Instead, he says that the best was d5. So this move pressuring his knight, which we did talk about and mention, but I didn't like the idea of having an unsupported pawn that far up. Okay, so taking back, yeah, bringing out the queen this early was suspect, especially because the queen is looking at a wall here. There's nothing the queen can do, right? So we bring out our own queen with the thinking of doubling up on this file. The engine seems to like it well enough. When we take it up here, we have this issue where the knight is, you know, in a bad spot. It looks like e5 would have been a better option. And once again, we did talk about this option in the game, but I didn't like the idea overall because the knight could be dislodged very easy. So just to show you guys what I mean, if we go here, he can play... oh, actually, he can't. There's some merit to this because his king is in check, right? So he would have to move back. Let's say that we make we make some move like so. And then here, he could potentially push away our knight if we wanted. But there's also this diagonal open. So I don't want to go too far on hypotheticals. Instead, let's just see what we actually played in the game. And yes. What? The engine wants me to play queen to e7. But can't we just take... He can just take back, right? And then if takes... What the hell is going on? Sometimes I don't understand the engine. The engine literally wants me to sack my queen. Let's keep going with the actual moves here. Right, so once the knight is there, I had no place to actually put him in. It's a very awkward position with these pieces disconnected from the ones at the top, and his centralized queen kind of blocking the whole, controlling the whole flow of things. He doesn't like that move either. And now there's a series of blunders from me, and in the very end he finds this move of knight, of course taking that blunder from me, and the perfect setup for a checkmate. with the support of the knight. So very instructive loss there. I will learn from this. I'll come back stronger next week, potentially with a new opening. So stay tuned for that. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.